Hello and welcome to another episode of the I Am Jen Wilson, the Healing Rebel podcast. This is episode 236, and I am delighted to have my new friend, Jeanique, who I met through the Glasglow Girls Club. So yes, another GGC member that we have as a guest. And the first time I met Jeanique, I just thought she is incredible. What an amazing energy, what a beautiful, beautiful soul. And I am very excited that you are here to share some wisdom, some of your story with us today. So thank you so much for joining us, Jeanique.
Oh, thank you so much. What a kind introduction. So, when I first met you, I was in absolute shambles and doubting myself and being a new member. So, the fact that you were so encouraging and empowering to me, and just telling me to go for it, that really stuck with me. So, thank you for that.
My pleasure. I think it can feel really intimidating walking into a space where there was I think there was about 20 women there. A lot of us already knew each other, and coming into that space as a new person, you're always like, oh, how is this going to be? Is it going to be cliquey? Is it going to be, am I going to be left on the outside? And one of the things that I love about the GGC is how there are friendship groups that have formed within because it's a big membership. Like I think there's about 500 or 600 in the business membership. So there are friendship groups that have formed in there, but every friendship group is more than welcoming to anybody new or to anybody from any of the other groups. They're not cliquey. We don't cut each other off from the groups, which is really, really nice.
I thought that was really lovely as well. See, when I went to the first accelerator program,
Yeah.
the one in October as well, I was speaking to Laura about this um, because I've mentioned to her that from my past, growing up in the Caribbean, especially, we're not used to having women kind of lifting each other up. It's more like competition. So, coming from that kind of background and learning to trust new women in my life, that was a huge one. So, it was definitely out of my comfort zone when I first joined, but it just opened my world up to a whole new perspective.
That's interesting you say that because I was on another call where Laura was there and she had a couple of guest speakers in, and one of the ladies was from England, and she came on and she's like, I've been telling everybody I meet they should find out what they're doing up in Glasgow, what they're doing up in Scotland, because there's so much collaboration and it's not about competition. So for whatever reason, this seems to be fairly unique. And I would love to hear from other English people or other people outside of Scotland because that was one person's opinion.
But it's very true.
Everybody in England going, we all collaborate, and not having heard anything about it. But yeah, it is very much a collaborative space. And there's quite a few other members. One of the other girls that I met recently is from South Africa, and she was like, it's when you come here, everybody's like, oh, you're not from here, come on round for dinner or let's go out for drinks. And South Africans are very like that as well. Like if somebody new comes into their space, they welcome them in, invite them round. When she moved to London, she was the one that was saying to people, oh, do you want to go for dinner or do you want to go for drinks? And people were just like, no, that was it. No, there was no,
Oh, that's a bit of a
which is,
shame.
yeah, it is quite a bit of a shame. So that's one of the things that I know that we want to discuss today is mental health.
Hmm.
And obviously, coming into new environments is going to impact your mental health. What to you does good mental health look like?
To me, and this is just from my own lived experience, right? So I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was 7, and I'm not medicated. So one of the way this manifests itself is with a lot of depression and anxiety, especially when I'm not in my purpose, especially with old traditional jobs that did not value me in that way as well. So that it had a lot of negative impact on my mental health. So I would say how it looks like for me nowadays. Yes, I still struggle in private with mental health, but I have loved ones around me that have been extremely supportive, and they know when I need either extra support or some space, or when I'm moving, I'm walking with the dog, I'm listening to music or dancing or just anything that keeps my mind active, even a wee doodle in the night, like when I'm after some dinner, things like that. Anything that just stops you from thinking, I feel like that's a huge one.
Yeah, because movement's a really big part of your life. I've seen you doing your little dance videos on your Instagram page, and naturally,
Dancing is genuinely, I keep telling this to everybody, but it's like my soul being translated in real time. Like movement for me is very healing. And I was thinking about it the other day. I was like, what is it that I keep coming back to? So exercise, yes, I still do it, and walking, I still do it. But even from a very young age, the thing that I've always been extremely consistent with has been dancing. So that's where I'm kind of weaving into my purpose just now. Dancing is like breathing.
yeah. And there's so much about dancing because yes, there can be a prescriptive way to dance if you're following choreography, for example, or you're going to do the waltz or the tango or one of these like very structured things. But generally, if you go out to a club or into a space where there's music and it's like let's dance, you move in a way that feels good for your body, and your body knows how to move. It's when you get into your own head and start thinking about, are people looking at me? Are people judging me? Or, oh, what is the story that you're telling yourself? Oh, I can't dance, I can't do this. But your body knows how to move in a way that it likes to move.
I feel like I tell everybody this all the time as well. If you have a body and if you can move, that's you dancing already. So there's no right way or wrong way to move. It's all about how you feel. And I talk about all the time about getting out of your head and into your body and not living into your body as a stranger. And I feel like dance does that for me, personally, anyway, in my life. But I've just been trying to encourage everybody to move as much as possible, no matter what kind of music you like, no matter what genre you like or what era, as long as you move a little bit, even if you're doing some chores in the house, I definitely encourage movement as much as possible.
Do you think that that's for you quite a cultural thing, having grown up in the Caribbean? Because here in the UK, when you go to nursery, when you go to primary school, you're sat in a seat and told what to do for 8, 9 hours a day. You're not encouraged to move around. And then for us culturally, dance isn't really there unless you go and do Scottish dancing or Irish dancing. Again, they're very structured things. Um, Dance isn't really part of our natural culture unless, of course, you're going out drinking and then going to a nightclub. It's not part of a culture thing. How much of a culture has that been for you?
I would say just very natural. I've been dancing since I was a little girl. I would say about 3, 4 years old. And it's definitely a cultural thing. So for Caribbean people, for example, I'm born on the island of Curacao, 150,000 people. So it's very, very small. And our philosophy is obviously beach, sand, going with the flow as much as possible, and just dancing in general. So I grew up with lots of different music, lots of different genres, anything from rock and roll, anything from punk, metal, which is music that I like still now to this day. But the music that I feel that moves my soul and that's still happening today is anything from Afro-Caribbean music, so Afro beats, for example, and reggaeton, which is Afro-Latin music. It's very tribal and ancestral, and it's very great for releasing trauma stored in the hips.
Yeah, I was going to say there's lots of research, particularly on that Afro style because of the drum beat and the bass. And there's lots of research about that bass being able to help you move and release trauma from the body. Can you talk more? Do you have more information? Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, actually, there was a study in England last year. And this is why I go back to mental health as well. Apparently, dance has been voted kind of the biggest thing around mental health, and it has been voted the number one. So, even against things like yoga, walking, exercise, dance has been the number one to deal with symptoms of depression. So, for me, I feel like that kind of proves everything that I've been saying intuitively for all these years. And people sometimes look at me like, oh, but it might not be everything. But I'm like, but it is. And I know I sound really silly when I talk about it, and I'm so passionate about it. But honestly, the fact that it's been validated in that way with something so official, yeah, makes me feel great.
It makes sense to me because you've got the music, which is tapping into your frequency. Like if we could connect our electromagnetic bodies up to the very sensitive, oh, I can't think what those things are called. I don't know if you've seen the mushrooms that they can hear music. That
Oh, with the electrodes,
electrodes, that's the word I'm
the
looking for.
electromagnets. Uh-huh.
So if they put them onto our bodies would be making sounds that we just can't hear at the frequency that we hear at. So when we hear music, that taps into frequencies in our brain that we don't know are there that can get us into, like we've heard of the alpha, beta, theta states. And that music can help you get into those places. And then that brain heart connection then connects to the nervous system so that on so many layers, because we've got all these electromagnetic frequencies happening in our body, and which is why we have healing music at different frequencies, and different frequencies help people in different ways. Some people will listen to a frequency that might say this is calming and feel really agitated from it, but that depends on what frequency their body's running at. And then there'll be
Actually makes a
another.
lot of sense. It's like movement is pretty much meditation in motion. So it makes sense in terms of the frequency of how that works. See, for example, meditation when I'm sitting on the floor or I'm breathing and things like that, I can only endure it for so long until my body just wants to get up and move again in a bit more active way. So I found my way of meditating and calming my brain down, but by not being passive.
Yes. Yeah. And movement is also medicine. We need to move to lubricate our joints. We need to move. Our bodies very much operate on a use it or lose it. If you sit down all the time, as soon as you, if you're sitting down long periods of time, as soon as you start to stand up and move around, body feels stiff, joints are sore. Your body's not meant to feel like that. We're not meant to be sitting in a chair for hours and hours at a time because then the tissues of your body are locking up. And then if you add into that the emotional trauma that's happening because we can't get through life, you haven't lived and experienced life without being able to experience some sort of trauma. Everybody's experienced a death or somebody saying something that's really impacted their nervous system. And I don't know if you follow Gabor Mate's work, but he says trauma isn't about what's happened to you, it's about how your body responds to what's happened to you, how your nervous system responds and stores what's happened to you. So if you've had a teacher that shouted at you and terrified you when you're a small child, that then lives in your body until you're able to release it. So if you can do movement, we see animals, they go and experience something, whether they come up and get a hug from you and they go before they go to the next person, they shake off and then go to the next person. If they've had a wee argument with one of their fellow dog friends, they'll shake off before they go and do something else. But we humans don't do that.
Oh, okay. I'm learning something new today, but I feel like I relate to that because I talk about shaking off energy myself as well. See, if I'm going into a new space or if I'm going somewhere new, what I always try to do is I ground myself outside of the building first and I shake off the energy and I'm like, right, I'm shaking off anything that I'm letting go today, especially if I've had like either a good day or a not so good day. I'm just going in with a completely clean slate inside a building, and I do the same when I leave. So they're onto something clearly.
You're onto something. You are light years ahead of every other human because we have not all picked this habit up yet. But it's something that, yeah, we totally should because then you're coming into every new experience in a fresh slate rather than coming in with the previous incidences. Like if you've had road rage on the way to a meeting and you go in and you're still in that energy and haven't shaken it off, that's going to influence that energy that meeting. Whereas if you've been able to release it and let it go, then you're going into the meeting with a balance. I love that. I
Yeah, I
love that.
think it's a really good one. I think I've taught myself to do that because of all the anxiety and all that stuff that I carry on me in general. So I've noticed that if I do that as like an everyday thing or as much as physically possible, it does ground me quite a lot. And then I don't go into that room with that feeling of, oh my gosh, I'm going to be judged. I'm going to be like, people are going to be looking at me that much. And I just get out of my head as much as physically possible. And it does help because I've been using this technique for many years now.
I was going to ask that when and how did you learn this technique? Who did you learn it from?
Honestly, I just started experimenting with it myself. I think it was especially when I had to do something really important. Like, let's say if it was like a presentation or if it was something that I felt like maybe I'm too anxious to go for it. That's when I kind of thought, right, maybe I should take a wee breath and take a wee second before I go in. And then it just kind of naturally transcribed from that. I didn't really learn it from anybody.
Because your body knows what it needs, right?
Mhm.
Or if we can tap in and start to listen. And again, this is something that we get we get untaught as we start into the school system, because you'll go to the toilet when you're told to, you'll eat, you'll drink when you're told to, you'll move when you're told to, not when you need to. So we've overridden, and then all of a sudden you're an adult in the free world going, I need the toilet, but I've got to finish this other thing before I go, or I need a drink, but I'll need to do this before I go, instead of responding and listening, because our body is so wise, way more wise than the brain. The brain is not as smart, I think, as people make out.
I feel like, what about something like the gut? Because I had this conversation with someone recently where we were talking about the gut and the brain connection. So all of the time, I try to connect with my gut and my intuition as much as possible. And especially if it's something new and I'm thinking, maybe I shouldn't do this, or maybe I shouldn't do that, or maybe I should do that. Listening to myself and my body's wisdom is a huge one.
Yeah, I mean, we call it our gut intuition for a reason, because there's more information coming from there. And then there's the newer research coming out from the quantum physics world about the fascia, and how your fascia is reading your environment from a much wider space than anything else. So if you walk into a room and there's an atmosphere, whether that atmosphere is happy and heightened, or whether there's, oh, somebody said something here and created an awkward atmosphere, as soon as you walk in, your body senses that, and then that information's fed in through fascia, through the gut, up to the brain to go, something's happening here, we need to be aware, so that you're more logically aware of it.
I relate to that though. I was recently at an event. I've been to this building many, many times before, so it wasn't my first time in there. And I've been with multiple people in there as well. It was a fun little club, and we went to go dance. And I don't know what it was about that particular night. Maybe it was something that I was carrying myself, or maybe it was the mindset that I went in. But I didn't particularly feel like I was upset or anything before I went in. But as soon as I walked into the room, there was this heaviness. And I thought, what is happening tonight? So I could not shake it off no matter what I did. And then we ended up leaving early. So I don't know whether it was a one off. It must have been, because I went after that again for another event in the same building and I was absolutely fine. So it must have been just that particular night. Just the energy in the room was very, very off.
Mhm. And there's some places that you go into, and it's the building has an energy. Like, you can go into an empty room and you can feel things in that room. You're like, stuff's happened here.
And it can be something really heavy. And then sometimes you just can't explain why.
Hmm. But that's your body reading it. And if we can quiet in the mind enough that we can start to tune in to the body, tune into that information, then we become a lot wiser, I think.
I agree with you because especially this year, with this visibility journey from myself on socials, for example, that's a huge one. I've been learning to truly tap into that more. I feel like in the past, I was always like, no, maybe if I talk about this, I'll be not ridiculed per se, but maybe someone will think it's something silly that I'm saying. So I've been kind of making myself quite small over the last few years. And then this year I was like, well, no, if I want to share something, I'm just going to do it. And if it's not received well, then, c'est la vie. It is what it is. But I just have to do it.
Yeah, and that's a huge thing about social media. You know, there's a lot of conversation about you need to show up as your true authentic self, and part of you can be scared to because you don't want somebody saying negative things to you because then you have to process that or deal with that. But at the same time, if you're not telling people what it is you want to tell them in the way that it is that you want to tell them, the people who would be drawn to you can't be drawn to you if they can't hear or see you. So it's like that shining your light, be the beacon for the people that are drawn to you, and the people that are criticizing you, well, they're never going to pay your bills. So thanks and goodbye, jog on.
I get that as well. Have you been looking into my socials very much? Because I talk about the lighthouse metaphor quite a lot. So, yeah, it's like it's all over my page. Like I talk about lighthouse and lighthouse metaphor quite a lot, because I see myself as that. I feel like one of the biggest compliments I've always gotten is like, as you said at the beginning of this podcast as well, kind of calm aura, things like that. It seems to be a reoccurring thing that I keep getting from people, and this has been all over the world wherever I've gone that I get the same compliment, and I've always kind of not believed it as much, I suppose, with my own internal biases. But lately, especially, I'm like, okay, I think there's a lot of truth in this, and I'm just gonna do it now. And I'm gonna take advantage of the fact that it is real. So I should start sharing my gifts with the world more.
And I'm just going to say, you're not going to shoot, you are going to.
I am, definitely am this year.
You are going to. So, on that note, you are going to be sharing your gifts with the world because you've set a workshop date.
Yes, I have. Oh, I'm super excited, super nervous, but super excited. There's gonna be my very new workshop coming up on the 7th of March of 2026. This will be at the Wellbeing Hub in Bridgeton. So they've been really lovely and kind to me, and they're offering me a space for 2 hours. So that'll be from quarter to 7 to quarter to 9 in the evening on that Saturday, and it's called DEN, so Dance, Embodiment, and Nervous System Safety. So it's a nice play on words, like a den, safe space. So
Yeah.
so I was messing about with that, but I've got it now.
Perfect. I love that. You're taking us into the den. And what can we expect when we come along to this?
So my structure would be definitely related to what are we letting go for the very new year. So the theme of rebirth is going to be a big one. Talking about the mindset that people come into. What is it that they want to let go from that last year? Also, a little bit of breath work as well to center the body and somatic movement as well. And I'm going to teach a little bit of how to kind of store into the hips and kind of sway. And then after that, we're going to do a bit of dancing. So there might be a little bit of twerking involved and a bit of hip movement, but I think I'm going to focus the most on a bit of fun, getting out of the minds and into the body.
Yeah, and when we spoke about this before, when we were talking about venues to do it, you wanted a place that didn't have mirrors, and that's the room in the Wellbeing Hub doesn't have mirrors because for me, there's nothing more distracting than me being able to see myself do something, and then my mind gets in the way of your arms are too long, you look weird,
It's
you're
very
you're
true.
you're the next thing, and sometimes it's just if a mirror or a camera is at a weird angle, it makes your body look distorted slightly. So when I'm teaching classes on Zoom, I've got my camera up and it's slightly tilted forward. But see, when I put my arms out, my arms look like they fill the whole room just because of the way the camera is. And I look like one of those things that sometimes you see outside shops that's got the air blowing up them and they're floating about, the big wobbly.
Like the outside of the car dealerships on TV.
Yes. You see them in movies, and I think that's what I look like. I'm like, oh my God, there's something wrong with me. Why are my arms so long? And I don't, they might be, like I might have quite long arms. I do have long arms because I've got long limbs. But just the way the camera picks it up, it looks really distorted and weird. But that would then get me in my head and make me really self-conscious and physically make myself smaller. I don't want people to watch me or see me. But I know that when I used to go clubbing, with my friends used to all just laugh at me because as soon as I got in and I could feel the beat of the music, we were standing in the queue and you could feel the beat of the music, and that would be me just started to dance. And then as soon as I got in, I was just off by myself, arms in the air, having the best time. And they'd be like, "Oh, that's Jen away off into her own wee world."
Oh, I love that though. I would definitely relate with that. I'm very much the same. And kind of reiterating back to you mentioning the mirrorless space, that was a huge non-negotiable for me when looking for spaces. So I was speaking to family members and they were saying, "Oh, but if you're gonna do some dance stuff, why don't you go to like a bar or a pub or somewhere a bit more clubby?" And I was like, "But no, that's not what I'm trying to accomplish. If I'm trying to encourage people to be out of their minds for a little bit and trust their body and the language of their body and really embody that for real in real time. I feel like things like alcohol and mirrors would really kind of backfire because it's about you trusting yourself and being in the moment and being present with who you are. And I feel like mirrors is a huge distraction from that. And it kind of heightens people's judgment of themselves as well. So I really was like, no, I definitely want a mirrorless space. It's in my business plan as well. So I was like, no, it's definitely happening like this.
Yeah, and alcohol just numbs people and it creates that disconnect. And what you're trying to do is create the connection to help with the nervous system regulation. Because nervous system regulation was kind of something that you, when I first heard you speak about what it was that you did in the world, that was one of the things that sort of stood out that you talked about was this nervous system regulation, which I imagine living with ADHD is really important because your brain's kind of going.
Yep. Yep, it's very true. My brain is always in overdrive.
Yeah.
And, there's a lot of issues. For example, for me with insomnia, for example, I don't tend to sleep very well because my brain is always thinking ahead of the next thing. It's a blessing and a curse because it's a blessing because I have so many great ideas and I have things that are in the creative space that I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to be very successful with these once I have them implemented. But then on the other side of the coin, I'm just not sleeping and not resting well enough. So nervous system safety is a huge one. I do need to put things in place for myself to keep myself right. So things like walks, things like dancing, things like maybe not being go, go, go 24/7 and taking time for myself is a huge one. I used to do that naturally anyway growing up. But I would say the last at least 5 years, especially, I've been getting really good at that and really saying to myself, right, it's time for a break. Like, put your phone away, do something else.
And I think that's really important on any healing journey, whether somebody's neurodivergent or they're living with a chronic illness or they're just not feeling great. They maybe know they want their health to be in a better place. You have to take responsibility. You can't get somebody else can't come along and do it for you. You have to make that choice that you are going to prioritize your health and your needs and take one of my friends calls it radical responsibility
I like that.
and and then taking action because you can sign up to work with a coach or go to a class or do whatever with an expectation that that person's going to help you. Now, that person, whether it's you, whether it's me, whether it's somebody else, we can share information and point people in the direction, but they're the ones that have to take the action on it and then make that action consistent, especially when shit's getting hard.
Exactly. No, I absolutely agree with you. It's about being consistent outside of the things that you're doing as well. It could be that you've had a really great day and everything's been wonderful. But then who's with you at the end of the day when you're alone with your thoughts? It's about how you deal with that in private as well. Whether you have a great support system or not, it's also about learning how to do that for yourself first and foremost. So I think that's a huge one.
Yeah, it definitely is. Because you mentioned earlier about having really loving, strong community of people round about you. And I know, like I see in the Glasgow Girls Club, and I've just been having a conversation with a friend on Instagram before we came on. And there are lots of people that struggle with that. They'd maybe split up with a partner or moved to a different city or a different country. And you've obviously moved a few times in your
Mhm.
life. And I've
Mhm.
moved a few times in my life, even though I've ended up back in Glasgow. I have been away and lived in different countries and different places. How do you go about having that community? How do you find your community and nurture that?
I feel like it's about going out of your comfort zone and putting yourself out there as well. And as you said earlier, with this radical responsibility, I feel like that's a really good one because, see, the way I made friends when I moved to Scotland in 2017. I did not know anybody. And this was when I moved here with an ex-partner who we were together for almost 8 years at the time. Met each other in the Netherlands because I lived there for 5 years as well before moving to Scotland. And we were engaged, things were looking great, but I knew nobody. I only knew him, his stepdad, and nobody else. So one of the things that worked for me, I was like, you know what? I don't know anybody, I don't have any friends, but I love to dance. So why don't I maybe look up spaces that have that somehow? So I ended up downloading a kind of networking app thing many years ago. And I ended up meeting friends that I still have today on there. And I've gone to salsa socials with them. Until this day, I still go to salsa socials most Tuesdays. So, yeah, that's how I started to make friends. And then it just spiraled from there because most of the people from salsa go to other events as well that are dance related or not dance related. And then I just made really great friends. So, it's about putting yourself out there.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the same for me. Even though I have friends in Glasgow that I've had for a long time, our needs were changing. Like, because I stopped drinking in 2014 and I had been married and then got divorced, and things were changing in social circles, and they were moving away or they were changing jobs into different places. So you kind of all of a sudden be like, hang on a minute, what happened? Where have all my people gone? So that's what I did. I used to go. There's a website called Meetup, and
Oh,
if
right.
you
Okay. I've never been to one of their meetings, but I had that app on my phone.
yeah, so and they would just have like loads of free events, and I would just go along to them and see. And sometimes you would go and you would have a nice evening chatting to some people, and then you'd never see or speak to any of them again, and that was absolutely fine. Or in one case, there was I don't know if this group's still about. There was a like a Facebook group called Girl Crew, and they had like
Stop. That's the app I
all
was on.
is that the one?
Yes.
They've got groups in all countries around the world. Right?
That's hilarious.
So I was in the Girl Crew Glasgow, and then from that, a few of us like had a wee subgroup of like we made there was a small subgroup of us made friends, and
Oh my
then
God.
our own wee WhatsApp chat, and we would like have Christmas like a Christmas jumper party, and we did that for quite a few years, and that's kind of that group kind of then dispersed because some people got married and had children and moved away and different things in different shifts, but that just gave another wee network of people. And then from that, you met other people through those people, and then other people through those people. And that was actually how I ended up finding the Glasglow Girls Club, was because I'd been in this girl crew, and one of the girls who was a friend of somebody that I was friends with in girl crew said, "Oh, you should check out this other Facebook group." And then I went checked out this
Mm.
other one, and then met Laura, and then that's spiraled to where we are today with
Spiral to where we are today on the podcast.
exactly like and just all these new friendship groups are growing, and some of them people will be there for years and years, and then others they'll be there for a little while, and then you'll kind of transition into different. And actually one of the original girl crew girls who I had met, and then I met her at a couple of other different group things, and then lost contact with her over the last few years. She's now then a member in GGC, and then we've like reconnected again. So it's like been a full
Aw, that's
of,
nice though.
oh look, there you are again, and we've known each other for a decade.
So the person who I originally met when I first moved through the Girls Crew app, we're not friends any longer. We were friends for quite a while, but I kind of relate with what you said as well with the not drinking aspect. So I don't drink in general. I've never had a drink and I've never smoked. But this girl, she did drink and she did smoke, and she did have a lot of issues with drinking. And initially I would say it was very fine because we didn't have any kind of disparity in our personalities and the dynamic, but our needs completely changed. And it kind of became a bit worse in her life. So I had to make the decision to take my distance in terms of, I guess, the influence that she was having on me. Um, and also because, as much as you want to help someone with their issues, you have to remember not to completely zero yourself out. And think about yourself and your own health and your own well-being as well. So it was getting too much to that point. So unfortunately I had to let the friendship go. But I'm very grateful for having met her because through her I met all the other people that are still in my life today. And I was able to go through all these socials and meet people that I probably would have never met otherwise, going to these spaces. So very grateful for that chapter in my life.
Yeah, and I think because as you mature, making new friendships is different because you don't have history with new friendships. Like I've got two friends in my life that I've been friends with since I was 17, and everybody else is much newer than that. Some people from early 20s, the rest are from my 30s onwards. But most recently, just in the last couple of years, and they're the people that I'm more close to now, just because self-employed, running businesses, then you start to network more with those people, and then you find people within there that you go, oh, we really are bonding over having a business together, but we've also got some other outside similarity things, and then those friendships grow. But I think some people can, like, and I know from the questions that are asked in that main GGC group, people just they feel like they failed because they're no longer still friends with the people that we've maybe been friends with since they were very, very young. And it's like that's okay.
It's
You're allowed,
okay. People
you're allowed to
change,
know people,
people
and
evolve. Uh-huh.
yeah, absolutely find new tribes all the time.
And I feel like that's okay. I feel like with some of the friendships that I still have, it's slightly difficult. And especially nowadays, a bit easier now because of the GGC as well. But most of my friends that I've known since I was a teenager or even a child, everybody is abroad. So I still have contact with them now. Some of them are in San Francisco in the US, some of them are in Barcelona, and still have that friendship with them, still have that contact, and I'm always speaking to them, but trying to make friendships with people that get you and understand your depth as a person is quite difficult sometimes. Like I hate small talk, for example. So a lot of the times I end up quite disconnected meeting new people because we don't share that same wavelength. So trying to find that sometimes has been tough. But yeah, I think I'm getting over that hurdle now, meeting great people.
Yeah, I think when you start a conversation with so tell me your deepest dreams, people can be like, "Oh, the weather's lovely, isn't it?" And I'm like, "The weather? What are you talking about? The weather? Tell me your story. I want to know more about you.
Yeah,
Tell me about."
what makes you thick? Like, what is it like? What do you get out of bed for? Like, what makes you happy? Like, those are conversations that light me up as a person. Do you like to move? What kind of music do you like? Do you go to gigs? Like, tell me a bit more about you, you know?
Yeah, I can't do small talk either. I'm just like, whoa, get me
No,
out of it.
you lose me quickly. You lose me very quickly.
How would you open a conversation with somebody new?
I guess it depends on what is going on in the moment and where I am. But my usual question is, what do you like to do for fun? Or what is it that lights you up? Or what kind of tea do you like? Just the simple things.
Yes, you can ask questions that help you find out more about the person without being overly intrusive and not going be as vulnerable as possible in this conversation.
Exactly.
Thank you. Is creating friendships as an adult, you do need to learn to be more vulnerable a bit more quickly, and that can be scary.
That can be scary. But I feel like it also depends on the other person and how open they are. I actually found friendship in a very strange spot. Recently, this girl, well, she loves to dance, so that's no strange thing, I suppose. But one of the ways that we connected was over grief and loss. Because she lost her mom and I lost my mom. And we used to bump into each other all the time when we used to go, to salsa and things like that. But we never created an actual friendship. And it wasn't until one night we were at this event and then she was quite upset and then we ended up talking. And then she was like, "Oh, this is what happened and I don't know how to cope with this." And it ended up being quite a vulnerable moment because I did not know her well and she did not know me well either. But just that human connection in the moment about something that is quite painful, but that she didn't have to be alone for. That's what created the friendship that we have now. And this was years ago. So the vulnerability aspect is definitely a big one.
Yeah. And I think for something like that, sometimes speaking to somebody who's not a close friend to start with can be easier
Hmm.
because they don't have any preconceived ideas about who you are, how you should be. Like, if somebody knows you quite well, they'll be like, "Oh, but you're strong enough, you'll be able to deal with this." And you're like, "That's not what I need to hear right now."
No, no, that's not what I need to hear right now.
You've not got that closer connection. It's easier sometimes to hold space for that person to just be able to listen to them and give them that space to be open.
Yeah, and I feel like that, which what you just said as well with the resilience and stuff like that. I've just been encouraging people to check in on those friends that are the strongest, like myself. Like I carry the weight of the world on my shoulders, as they say, and it's nice sometimes when people notice that, hey, I need a bit of help or I need something as well, and that I'm not this insanely strong person in the background. And yeah, check in on your friends, check in on your strong friends, because they're the ones that need it the most.
That they are, that they are. Um, is there anything else you want to talk about today that we haven't touched on?
Let me have a think. I guess the only other thing would be gut health. That was one thing, because you
Whoa.
know a lot about that. So I wanted to ask how it works because I've had a lot of gut issues the last few weeks. So I'm trying to understand where the correlation is coming from and inflammation and cortisol
Mm.
and things like that and how the medical system sometimes is not has not been very kind. So I can see your face already. You're like, well, I've got a story for you.
So, for me, what I would suggest to anyone is looking at where your stressors are coming in because when you are stressed, that's going to influence how your gut responds to any food. So, food that you've been able to eat for weeks, months, years without any issue, you then become stressed. All of a sudden, can then become aggravated just because, as you mentioned, their cortisol levels are up, adrenaline levels are up. Your body, when your stress hormones increase, your digestion switches off because your body's getting ready to fight and flight. It's not rest and digest, it's out that parasympathetic state. So it's how do you get yourself before you eat anything? How do you get yourself into a calmer space? So not eating on the run, sitting down to eat, closing your laptop or switching off your phone so that you can pay attention, taking a couple of breaths just to help your body get into that more parasympathetic state so that you can eat the food that you're eating and then pay attention to how your body's responding to it. If you, when you eat, if notice your tongue, so your tongue is a really good indicator of whether or not there's stuff going on because if I don't know if you know much about reflexology, you can get reflexology on your feet and on your hands, and the surface area maps out your body. It's the same on your tongue. Your tongue
Okay.
maps out your body, and in different points in your tongue relate to different organs. So noticing when you eat food if your tongue gets sore or tingly, or if you've what colour your tongue is, if you've got a white coating on your tongue, if you've got what look like teeth mark indentations along the edge of your tongue. These can all indicate if there's something going on. So if there's those indentations around your tongue, then there's inflammation in your gut and your body's not being able to absorb nutrients very well. If there's a coating on your tongue, then your body's toxic and it's trying to push those toxins out. If your tongue's a nice pink, healthy colour, then things are good. If your tongue's very pale, then your body's got low energy inside. So using your tongue is a really good way to sort of start to investigate what is going on. If you've got any cracks in the tongue, then that's an indication that there's issues within the organs. Depending on where the cracks are, will relate to different organs. So I've got a crack right across the sort of front middle part of my tongue. I've got inflammatory bowel disease, so there's inflammation in there, and that's an indication that things are not properly healed. When it comes to what kind of food should you eat, you need to listen to how your body's responding to
Mhm.
the different foods. Avoiding ultra processed foods is high priority. So always look at the ingredients list. If you're buying something in a packet, if you could not go into your kitchen and recreate that because there is sodium phosphate or emulsifiers or aspartame or any of these kind of chemically names in it. If you can't go into your kitchen and recreate that, then that's an ultra processed food, which isn't a food, it's a food like substance, and your
Uh-huh.
body will struggle to process that. So, real food as much as humanly possible so that your body can actually tolerate it. And then it's from those things, what is your body happy having, what's your body not happy having. Some people will be vegan, some people will be carnivore, some people will be somewhere in between. And one of the things that I found most useful was looking at my ancestral DNA to see where my DNA has come from, and then eating foods that are from those regions. So I did the ancestry DNA test years and years ago before I knew that they sold your information.
Oh no.
Before we knew that that was a thing, you can now tick a box to say don't sell my data on, with some of the companies anyway. So I did my ancestry DNA and I'm 100% Celt. I'm 51% from the west coast of Scotland, from the borders right the way up to the Highlands and Islands. And then the other 49% is Ireland, particularly
Okay.
Donegal, so the north coast. So when I then started investigating, well, what would my ancestors have eaten? Because from an evolutionary standpoint, the cells that I have now are the strongest cells based on what all my ancestors ate up until this time. So for me, fish, oats, barley, potatoes,
Things that I like as well.
yeah. So for me, I then started just gradually tweaking my diet and eating those things, and my body responded better to them. Before that, I mean, I absolutely love curries, Malaysian curries, Indian curries, Vietnamese curries, Caribbean food. I love all the flavors and tastes and stuff. But in my mind, I was thinking, I wonder, before I even knew about this evolutionary stuff, I wondered whether or not my body was able to process this, and if that was why my body was irritated, because I wasn't eating things that my particular individual body had evolved to eat. So then I started, I still eat curries. Like if I want to go for an Indian or a Thai or whatever, I will go for one. But that's not my main staple food. My main staple food now is what would be local to here, and I nourish myself more on that. And I have noticed an improvement in my health from that. So if you know where you come from, so obviously you've got Caribbean heritage. What was eaten more locally there, and then eating those foods to see if that's what helps soothe and calm your body.
Yeah, and I feel like it's also about trusting your body again. I know I've been repeating it so much on this call, but
Can't repeat it enough.
I can't repeat it enough. It's just because recently, obviously with gut issues and inflammation and things like that, I still picture that down to some of my sleep issues, but it's also about finding doctors and people that you can trust as well, because the very last experience that I had was them saying, well, we can medically explain that there's something wrong with you because all your levels are fine. You know, your thyroid levels are fine, your B12 is fine, your vitamin D is fine, everything's great. But then I look myself in the mirror and there's a lot of inflammation and there's a lot of things that I can tell are not normal. So it's about trying to find that balance of where to go. And it's been quite tricky. The inflammation has gone down quite a lot, especially with once again listening and to your nervous system and to your body and making changes. But it's about trying to find the core issue about what's going on. So that's a journey.
Yeah. I think if you struggle to get proper sleep, if you can get rest, so even if you're lying in your bed and not sleeping, but you're connecting with your breath and you're being in a restful state, then that's better than lying in bed and going, oh, I should be sleeping and getting yourself all wound up and worked up because you're then in that sympathetic driven space rather than in parasympathetic. So is it you follow a meditation? Is it you count sheep? Is it my mum has started doing a thing when she's awake through the night is going through the alphabet and A to Z, finding as many women's names through A
Oh,
to Z.
that's quite smart, actually.
And then, well, she heard it from some doctor on the telly, and the doctor on the telly was like, by the time you get to E, you'll have fallen asleep. Well, one night I couldn't sleep, and I was A to Z with female names, and I was totally awake because I had been
Oh
thinking,
no, so backfired for you.
this backfired on me 100%. So with that in mind, it's what are the things that calm and soothe you down? Is it listening to music? Is it white noise? Is it whatever it is that
Ocean
helps
sounds is a big one.
for some?
I might need to put those on again like I used to. Ocean sounds. There's also one on YouTube where it's rain and thunder on top of a ship deck. It's very specific, but it sounds wonderful.
Yeah. So having that on in the background just so that your nervous system is calming down. I've got on Amazon Prime, they've got a bonfire, a crackling bonfire with waves in the background. And I put that on and I physically feel my body just go, ah. And I just have it on in the background because it's an 8 hour track just on repeat. And it just stops that when you feel that fizzy way, when you're, ooh, it just brings it in and like quietens it down. So it's finding those things that work for you. And we mentioned earlier on about all the different frequencies, and some of the calming music can really agitate people. That's just where your nervous system's at. So just keep trying different ones, trying different things until you find the one that you go, oh, I can breathe, or the thing that, oh, I can breathe. And then if you're not getting your 6 to 8 hours of sleep, and women do need more sleep than men, then it's how can you then rest so that you feel calm. And also, the doctors will look at your bloods and say everything's fine,
Hmm.
but they're basing that on societal norms.
Yep.
And societal norm is a whole lot of sick people. So if those normal ranges are normal ranges of sick people, what is the normal ranges of healthy people? And what you might be at the low end of the normal range, but for you, that's actually no use. It's way too low. Because I know vitamin D, for example, I know that the normal range for vitamin D only goes up to 55
Okay.
nanoliters per whatever, I can't remember, NML. But that's only so that you don't get rickets. For you to, if you've got an autoimmune condition, or if you've got cancer, or if you are somebody whose immune system doesn't function very well, you need that vitamin D level to be significantly higher around
Higher.
100.
Uh-huh. We were having that conversation. Um, I do have a compromised immune system, an autoimmune disease as well. So for me, we had that conversation about vitamin D, and then we did the test, and then apparently it came out normal, everything's fine, but they were going to put me on high levels of vitamin D to start counteracting, especially the inflammation and things like that. But they voted against it in the end and said everything's fine, so you don't have to use that. And I just thought, well, I can tell that something's wrong and it's not in my head. So I feel like what I'm trying to encourage people to do as well is like don't be afraid to question it.
Absolutely not. And I would ask them for a printout of your blood test results, or what number is my vitamin D? You're saying my vitamin D is fine, but what is that number? And find out what the number is. So if it's below the 150, then for you it might be too low. So supplementing with vitamin D to get it up higher might be exactly what you need, because I get my vitamin D sits up about 100, 150 to 165, and every year I get them to check it to make sure that I'm still maintaining that. Because as soon as you get a virus or an infection, or if you have a flare or inflammation in your body depletes that vitamin D straight away because it uses it up really, really quickly. So I personally take about 5,000 IU of vitamin D every single day to try and maintain that. And if I've been unwell, then I'll top that up to about 10,000, because I know that for me that's where my body can keep my levels in that space. But not everybody metabolizes vitamin D in the same way. Obviously, you've got darker skin, so you won't metabolize vitamin D from the sun in the same way. You would have to stay out in the sun significantly
So
longer.
significantly longer. Uh-huh.
Also, depending on your body weight, on your gut microbiome profile, these things are also going to have an impact and an influence on.
Oh, don't get me started on that conversation.
Yeah.
No, I think the reason that everything's a bit all over the place as well, a few months ago, I had something called gastroenteritis.
Mhm.
So that was the very first time I've ever had it in my entire life. And ever since then, my whole system has been bizarre. I've never had any issues with inflammation in my life. I've never had food sensitivities. So I feel like it's almost like my body is trying to rebalance itself again after all of that and trying to get itself fixed. And it's manifesting in that inflammation and things that I've never had to deal with before. So yeah, it's about trying to get that balance back up again.
Yeah. And that, I mean, any issue in your GI tract is going to cause some inflammation. So if you've got IBS, if you have a bug in your gut, and your gut is so sensitive to any kind of change, and when it gets the right environment, it will rebalance itself. So if you've had to be on antibiotics, you've depleted all your microbiome, so you're having to then repopulate. And some of the bacteria may not ever come back because it's been completely wiped out.
Hmm. Hmm.
And for some people, having a really diverse range of fibers is beneficial to them, but not for everybody. So because I've got inflammatory bowel disease, the research that's been done specifically on diet have found that if somebody's in a flare, creating less diversity in their diet to reduce all the bacteria is more beneficial than trying to increase all the bacteria. So taking probiotics and things can have a negative effect, because
Right.
some of the you need the whole arsenal of different microbes, because they've all got different tasks. Like Helicobacter pylori is classed as a bad guy in your system. E. coli is classed as a bad guy in your system, but you need to have both of them in your system to fight off the worst guys. And if you completely wipe them out, then the worst guys then get to populate. And likewise, you've got all your lactobacillus and your
Those difficult
bacillus
ones.
differences.
It
And
does explain why my gut has not restored itself properly since then, though, and it was the very first time I've ever had anything gastrointestinal like that in my life. That wiped me out completely for a whole week, and I felt like I've never recovered from it. And dealing with these new things, but it's just trying to find that balance again, and hopefully I can get there soon. Because I just kept questioning myself because I initially thought, oh, maybe there's something I'm doing. But then when I actually sat down and went, hey, it's never been the same since that week, then obviously it has to be connected.
I would just say slowly and gently to help rebuild, because it can be really easy to try and throw everything. I'm going to take all the fermented foods and I'm going to take all the this and all the that and all the next thing and all the super greens and then you overload your system and overwhelm it. So it's just try one thing for a few days and see how your body responds because you want to, if you throw everything in and you have a negative outcome, it might just be one thing of all those things that you've put in. You know, it's like the when you're making a recipe for a cake, if you put too much in too quickly, your cake doesn't work. But if you put the things in the right order, there's like a science to it. And it's the same with your gut. It's like, right, like just try things and see how your body responds. And if that's okay, then add something else in. And if that's okay, add something else in. So if you're okay with dairy, then you maybe start with a natural yogurt or a little bit of milk kefir and see how your body is, but just a really small amount over a few days, maybe gradually pick it up. Um, Soft food. So if you think about how you would feed a baby to try and get it used to eating solid foods, cooking things really well so they're soft, having soups, having smoothies, but not too much diversity in your ingredients. So maybe just two or three things, and then gradually build that up and try different ingredients to see what works for you.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you so much for those tips. I felt like I've been losing my mind having this conversation and oh, it's about trusting again, it's about trusting myself and my body again. And just doctors have been very helpful, but also not. So yeah, it's been very frustrating to say the least, having that conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I would definitely ask for a printout of your blood test results and then utilize AI to ask for a female of your age, of your ethnicity, is there any suggestions that it would make to optimize your blood test results and see what,
Ah, I haven't thought about that.
because, but then when you get those results, double check them, like do a bit more research into what it's suggested. Don't take that as gospel because it's just pulling from all the information it can find on the internet, and sit with it and make sure that it feels right for you, and then and use that as a nice starting place.
No, that's actually brilliant. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Anything else you want to chat about before we finish up?
No, that was it. That was the last thing on my mind, as I'm dealing with these live.
We have your event on the 7th of March 2026 at the Wellbeing Hub. When are you launching that? When is that going on sale?
I'm basically doing all the logistics now in order to start getting it off the ground, because I don't want to wait till the last minute.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely. I would say it's pretty much live now. As soon as I have the logistics ready, I'll just pop them on my socials and we can hit the ground running.
Perfect. So, what are your socials? How do people find you?
So on Instagram, it is at Rooted with Jeanique, and it's Jeanique with Jean, so like jeans, and then IQUE at the end.
Yeah, we can put a link to that into the show notes because you've already sent me over your wee bio and stuff. And then when your link's ready to book your workshop, we can put that into the show notes as well so that people can find it really easily. But definitely get on to Instagram and follow Jeanique because she's very inspirational and uplifting and joyful.
Aw, thank you so much. It's been an honor to be a part of this today, and thank you for
So,
inviting me.
my absolute pleasure. Thank you for being here.
No, thank you.